It's day 2 of the McGolf club build. Let's see what we're going to do now. Thank you for coming back to the McGolf shop. Jim McCleary, most award certified club maker, club fitter. And if you would, please follow us on the other social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. McGolf Custom Clubs or IAMMCGOLF. That'll get it there. Now, we're back into day 2, or the second step. We'll call it the second step. You saw where we customized the head, and basically it was how to stamp a head. Now, when we go to build the wedges, we're going a little bit more into that, but the heads have yet to arrive because of this COVID shutdown. When they do, then we really get into something like that, because this is going to be a lot of fun. So what's next? Well, you got to weigh everything. You got to weigh all the component parts. And why is that? Well, you've got to know where you're going, because you have swing, everybody's concerned about swing weighting, and then there'll be some people concerned about MOI. And in either case, length and weight play a part in this. All right, as we all know, a certain amount of swing weight's added when you add the length. A certain amount of swing weight is added when you add weight, and vice versa, right? And the shafts all come into that. Now, I tend to like my clubs a little lighter because I'm not a very aggressive swinger. So hence, I've been playing graphite or lighter weight steel for years. And in this testing, right, in the is the golf fitter the world's worst guy to go get fit? In a lot of cases, yeah, because we just take stuff and go, yeah, we know what's wrong with it, and then go hit it, and then come back and tinker with it and go back out again, as opposed to just getting fit. So what's been happening here since I've been doing these reviews for the last year is that, I found the component parts that I like and that tend to work for me. So that's what we're building. So we need to weigh it all. And what we look for is a 7 gram difference between the heads. Now, that's because I'm going in half-inch increments. Now, if you want to talk about MOI is a little different in that, much like the swing weighting has this particular feel, MOI has this particular feel. There's different ways to get to the same spot. In MOI matching, it's a lot of weight adding or a lot of weight removing, and it just depends on how you like the look of these clubs, or if back weighting is going to get you where you need to be. That's a lot of weighting. I'm not so certain I subscribe to that. However, I'm not going to tell you it's not the way to go, because there are people that are building very, very good clubs with MOI matching. There are golfers that are experiencing better golf because of MOI matching. So I can't tell you that it's bad, and I'm not gonna. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that there's 2 different kinds out there. For a poor man's MOI matching, if you just wanted to get right down and dirty with it, because MOI really relies on length more than it does the weight. If you were to go, instead of half-inch increments, you would go in 3/8-inch increments, that you would virtually MOI match your set. Now, would it be to your MOI? That's a whole different story. Now, but if you assume that the weight of the head is what you need, and then you go in 3/8-inch increments, then yes, the answer is yes, you will have your MOI matching. All right, so there's enough of that. But we've got to weigh it, and we want to weigh all the other component parts. All right, so what else am I going to be using? Well, as you guys may have seen in some other testing, I did one where we tested all the shafts. We'll go over here. That the KBS TGI 95. All right, the TGI stands for Tour Graphite Iron, and the 95 just really allowed me to have a really straight acceleration curve, and I was able to deliver the club to square. I believe it was a weight issue as well. I'm good with, I've played with 105s. I did okay with that, but I tend to play just a tad better. I manipulate the club, basically. 65, which is what you see in a lot of the graphite's a little too light, and when they start getting heavier where I like it, the flex becomes far too much. Well, thank you, KBS, because in their catalog, you will look and you'll find 95, and they call it basically an R+. With KBS is always, they're a little bit conservative, shall I say, or a little bit less conservative in their frequency or in their ideas of flexing. So R+ is basically the bottom end of the stiff range, which is exactly where I hunt. So this is going to work out just fine. So all those things that I've been talking to you marry up with that acceleration profile, the feel of the club, the whole 9 yards. Now, the only problem here, and I'm getting outside of my weighting, however, when you get above 80 grams, that becomes a taper tip shaft. So I'm outside my ability to frequency match. Now, I could have bought 8 of each kind and then sent them all back. That's not fair to KBS or even GolfWorks. and I really didn't want to do that. So I'm going to live with the way that it's made, and that's how we're going to go. Now these are all 95 and they're all supposed to be constant weight, so we're going to see if they're all 95. So let's go measure and find out. All right, so you saw that the head weights were basically dead solid on. There was only one that was 1 gram off, not sweating a gram. The other ones in the KBS, 4 out of the 6 were dead solid on between 94 and 95, just as prescribed, and the other ones were at 98, which is 3 grams, which is like a third of your swing weight for you guys out there concerned about that. Not so much, and it turns out they were the top 2, the ones at the top 2 longest ones. The rest of them are right down the middle. So, you know, again, everything is coming out really close. I'm not going to, you know, go after 3 grams because it's a third of a swing weight point. Nobody's going to know that. And with the fact that they are a little bit heavier, it's not going to be too bad. So we should be in pretty good shape. Now let's go to the next step. Let's finish putting these shafts into my new iron heads. What you saw first was the spining and the spine of the shaft. That can be a delicate topic, we'll say, and whether or not people believe there are spines. Maybe they call them the heavy side, or the shaft could be out of round. There's a whole lot of things that can be considered on a spine. On steel, so what happens with steel? Steel is a flat piece of metal. When you see it, it's on a big roll, right? And it's about yay wide. And it's a big flat steel roll, and it's as taller than most people are tall. And it goes through this process, and it keeps getting shaped and shaped and shaped and shaped and shaped until it gets married together, and then they have a micro weld. It's very well done. It's just that's how they're put together. That is the hard side, and in a lot of cases, when it's done well, it's minimal. On some cases, when the welds may be kind of heavy, or the way that it's been extruded, that it's really easy to find. You'll see that the shaft just gives you one of those. Depending on what your feel is, whether it's the top or the bottom, you know, depending on how you're pulling down on it or pulling towards you, whatever, and then where that goes. So I get this question quite a bit. Where do you put your spine when you go to do everything? Mine goes at 12 o'clock. And when we first started doing all this, there was a rule out there about not being able to align a shaft to give a golfer an advantage over another one. And so if we neutralized it at 12 o'clock, and we also found out that the shaft kind of bent down during a swing. And when it did that, so if we were to put it at noon and it was doing this, it was giving you a level of consistency, you know, that you could work. It wasn't an advantage, it was just a very consistent golf club. Now, for the other side of it, there is the school of thought between 9 and 3. All right, to the target, away from the target. Where if you place it towards the target, that you're going to get a little extra kick and get down there. or if you place it away from the target, you get a little less. Now let me talk to all that. There are, again, two camps. There will always be this argument, this is a chicken or egg kind of thing, that flowing, spine and flowing doesn't do a thing. All right, and there are people that will live and die by it. Now, typically, you'll find that the guys that go with they'll come with, we haven't seen any appreciable results. Normally, those are people that have high volume OEMs, people that are putting out gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs, and they're justifying not doing it by saying that. And they may have the research, and okay. And then there's guys that will say it absolutely performs. I've got guys that have done better with it, and that's the way that will always be, because it is proven to me. Everybody has their own experiences, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that it builds a more consistent golf club. I put it at noon, get it so that it bends in the same way when you swing. And if you give me well, we swing differently all the time. Yeah, but in that fractional amount, it's not going to be like, oh my God, if I would have had my spine at 9 o'clock instead of 12, that swing would have been better. No. All right. We try and get it down to we either argue to the millimeter, the fractional, or we argue to the nebular side. This doesn't make it consistent. That way it reacts the same, and that way you can depend on it. And that's what we're doing. So we did the spining, now we're going to do the flowing. Now here's a trick of the trade again. As you know, we're going from 355 to 370. Wait a minute, let's see if I can do that. 355 to 370. That means that this is bigger than that. So you get in there and it wobbles around. Now when we do flowing, you guys have seen me use fishing line, and fishing line is just to take up the extra space between the two that actually fit, and it's about 1,000 or about 100th, about 1,000th. There you go, 100th, about 100th, yeah. It's about 100th, and when you do this, it's a little wider. So how do I take up that extra space? Well, I use a rubber band in this particular instance. All right. So the easiest way to do it is just to stick the rubber band down into the middle of the shaft. So you got it like that. Then what happens is that you get it started, and then what you do is you pull on the string, or pull on the rubber band to make it thinner, and then you push on there. All right, and then when you're all done, you let it go, and then that is basically taking up all that space. Now I like doing mine at the top. I decide because when it hangs, it gets in the way of the laser. So let's show you a flow. All right, when we get back, I've got it in my clamp. Oh, what's that? I've created I'm bleeding. All right, so I'm putting this together wounded. Apparently I've got something on either my nose or my cheek here, and it's bleeding. Okay, so I've got it in my clamp. You saw the spine that I made, the spine line that I put on. I've got it at the 12 o'clock position. I've got this is that laser thing that I've showed you. I can show you that in a video. And all these pieces can be, well, you got to buy the laser at Office Max, and then these other things are just clamps for your cables at the house. All right, see how we got it right there? There we go. See how that's this nice straight line right there? That's the flow. And that's what I got to do for all the shafts. I get to 12 o'clock now. There could be times when you're going to have to hunt it. It may not be perfect. You'll be off, maybe 10 degrees or so, or you can turn the head a little bit and make sure that's it. And then that way you would be in line. And that's flowing. That's flat line oscillation. Hence, that's the reason why you saw that going on there. And again, for the bending down part of it. Now let's go put some together. All right, first off, what we do in the mcgolfshop is that we're going to be using brass shims. Well, I had to order a bunch more to take place of what I did. So in order to know which one I have and be very, very fast, I write down what the shims are for, because there's probably 3 or 4 sizes of shims. And then I just put these in their holders, and away we go. So what are we going to do here today? We are going to these are 355 to 370 shims. They're going to go over top basically like that. We're going to get glue on both sides, and then we're going to get a little bit of glue there, put it all together. There's probably going to be more than what you really need, but it's just making sure that we get it on all the surfaces. To show you, right here is the line at the tip of the hosel. You're going, well, why does it only go that far? Well, it's because these shafts are only tapered to so far, and that's the only part that we're worried about taking up the space on. The rest of it is just regular shaft. So what I've got to do is I've got to prep the shaft ends here, and then we'll come back and start putting and then make glue, and then we'll start putting stuff back together. Okay, so we're going to start from the bottom up, and what I like doing is we get a little bit on the tip. We're going with the white ferrules because Mrs. McGolf picked them. Press them down. Always have my paper towels ready. I'm going to use this to press it down a little bit. What we're doing is we're making room for this guy here. And you see how that fits right there? That's pretty good. So we get a little bit of glue on the bottom. Set that on there. A little bit of glue on the top. We get it in there, and what I do is I tend to work it back and forth. You see it moving? Let that extra drip off of there. We line up the line. And then start wiping it down. Now the trick when you're using colored ferrules and you're using black glue is that line tends to want to show up. You want to get rid of that as much as you possibly can. Do another quick line. And we get it. So now we got it where we want. Put the tape on it, and all this is doing is holding it down so that we don't have any ferrule creep. So that was putting it together, right? Using the shim can get a little bit messy, and there are different, there are different shims. There are plastic shims, there are the metal shims, people have used fishing line in the past. Whatever works for you. Commercially, either the metal or the ferrule that comes already made with that is what I tend to use because it's made for that situation. I like made for situational type stuff. You saw me using the tape, and that was to prevent from the ferrule creep coming up, and that's what we're going to do the rest of the shafts. Give me 24 hours and we'll come back and we'll put some finishing touches on the ferrule.